that coheres as a group and learns and acts quickly. And so it's that, like part of, for example, what I'd learned from my own first startup at SocialNet, which I helped PayPal with, was, what we interviewed people was for raw intelligence, learning, and team sports and a clock speed, right? As opposed to, oh, did you have 10 years running an operational server farm, for example, right? And then right behind, you guys had questions. Well, I can speak for weeks on viral marketing. There's nothing really I could say in like a minute. I mean, think of it, if you want to go, the math and the science matter, and if you're interested in the math, go look up epidemiology. The question is, what makes a platform promising? So, a platform, the whole challenge of platforms is, how do you get them actually adopted, right? How does it actually get to a broad enough, it's the problem, the very first problem at PayPal, which is, oh, we're gonna have encryption on mobile phones, that'll be a platform, people will adopt it. So some people, for example, one of the discussions I have with Mark Andreessen frequently is he goes, you just have to focus on the platform and you're lucky it gets adopted or not. I tend to feel that if you actually build a platform along with something that is already kind of your killer app, you can build out the platform behind it. To some degree, I think that, like for example, photo sharing on Facebook is that sort of thing, and then you have this platform behind it that allows companies like Zynga and that sort of thing. Okay, white shirt.
With LinkedIn's dominance in the professional space and Facebook's dominance in the social space, is there any space left for online communities?
The question is, are there any spaces for online after Facebook, LinkedIn, depends on what you think of Twitter. The short answer is almost certainly yes, but if I knew it, I'd probably already be invested in it and probably be working. One of the things that I think is a delight about working with entrepreneurs, and this is part of what I mean by like network intelligence, is that the collective set of ideas, like there are some great ideas in this audience that I haven't had, right, that are interesting to discover. And so I don't so much go to the market with, oh, here's my model and here's my theory and I'm looking for something in it, as much as I look for someone come to me and say, I found something that no one else has found and that's really interesting. And so I'm almost certain that that's there, right, but I don't know what it is. So the question is, do I invest in pre-revenue, pre-launch startups, and what do I look for? So the answer is yes. Matter of fact, very rarely have I invested in startups that had revenue. It does happen. Yeah, about 20% actually, so it's not terribly rare. And what you look for in early stage companies is you look for kind of some combination of an absolutely great kind of entrepreneurial team. And in the consumer internet, that means people who are really good at product and engineering. That means people who have an instinct for what is a good product. Now, frequently, by the way, in terms of pre-launch, is it's usually a good product team has actually already started building stuff. So if you get something that's kind of back of the napkin, it usually indicates there are not enough product people because they should be compelled to building something. And then in terms of pre-revenue, actually, one of the things is to solve the hardest problems. The whole hypothesis mentioned that I was talking about before is solve the hard problems. Well, usually in the consumer internet, revenue is actually not usually the hard problem. Sometimes it is, right? But usually it's not. Usually distribution. This is one of the reasons why when people say, well, what do you first look for? The first question I usually ask is how to get to 1 million users. Second question I usually ask is how to get to 10 million users. After that, I start asking the other questions because usually that's the hard problem in the consumer internet. Because if you actually look at this room and you say, okay, say for example, there's startup ideas that you take the number of people in this room and you divide it by 3, and that's the number of companies that are being launched. Well, that's too much for any consumer to pay attention to, right? By a huge number. And so it's how do you get to a massive size and relevance? It's the really relevant thing, and that's a combination of a great entrepreneur and a really interesting idea. So, thank you. Great to see you. Great.